once you have that helmet down, you're equal, you're drivers.
Year-old from the Bay Area just became the first Filipino to win an F1 Academy race.
Big deal. And growing up, she and her family would commute from San Jose all the way up to the Sonoma Raceway to compete in go-kart racing.
18-year-old made history in early May as the first ever Filipino to win an F1 Academy race.
Hi everyone, I'm Bianca Bustamante. I'm an 18 years old racing driver from the Philippines.
We're so excited to have you and be able to share your story with us here at the Women's Circle. Your story of racing and where you came from karting to now, driving for F1 Academy is inspiring to everyone, regardless of age and what country you come from, whether you're into motorsport or a professional in our work setting here in our dealerships. And so we'd love to hear more about kind of where you started and then how you found the grace and confidence to overcome and be at the level you're at now.
So yeah, motorsport. Well, it's very known to be a very male dominated sport. So that itself, I think, was already a struggle. But I think moving away from that, I started karting at the age of 3. I found my passion through my dad. He was a former karter as himself, so really his passion just really radiated to me. I even remember when I was like a year old, I already had my own karting suit. I already had my own helmet. And so really it just ran in the family. I instantly picked it up from my dad. And from then on, I kind of just revolved my whole life around it. I even remember, I think I was about 5 years old when I competed in my very first kart race. And that really what sparked everything. The minute I was in the kart, the minute I was racing, just didn't know what else to do. It was everything. I lived and breathed motorsport. And my parents, seeing that, they kind of backed me as well. We come from a very middle class family. I come from the Philippines. So it was always a struggle to actually get into the sport because it's not a household sport in the Philippines. We're not known for it. There's not a lot of facilities that actually caters to drivers. We don't have the kart tracks. We don't have the machinery and everything. So that itself was already a struggle. And yeah, but my parents saw that I was just willing to risk everything, that I was, disciplined, that, I made the decision when I was 6 years old to actually go to homeschool to focus both on my academics and on my racing and to be able to manage my time, my schedule. I started working out at the age of 7, and really from then on, I had a routine where I was just like kind of tunnel vision to my goal, which was, making it to Formula cars, and yeah.
Wow, your story is just so impressive. What do you think is the most significant barrier that you've had to overcome in your career in F1 or just in motorsport?
I think really the barrier that I had to overcome is the current stigma we have on Asian athletes, female drivers. Coming from Asia, it was always hard to actually to pursue something that is kind of unheard of. To be a trailblazer and kind of be a pioneer and create a path for yourself it was quite difficult because coming from Philippines, we're kind of always stuck into this norm where you go to school, you become a doctor, you become a lawyer, and you graduate, and then you can work, and yeah, that was kind of like the path that was made for me from my parents or by other people or just the current trend. And that's why when I told my parents that I wanted to be a racing driver, it really shocked them because they knew we weren't rich, so that itself, it was going to be difficult. So that meant that I had to work hard. I had to really take everything intensely. Even though I was young, I was already dealing with pressure because I never knew when it was gonna last, when it was gonna be the last time I was racing because of how expensive it was. So I couldn't take anything for granted. I had to work hard for everything. I was knocking doors on people, asking for support, knocking doors on teams to help sponsor me. And, really everything I did, just so I could be in a car and drive because I knew that it was going to be worth it. And so when, I tell people that, they often tell me that, why don't you just, dream less and hopefully you'll achieve something in life. And pretty much my whole life, that's what I was constantly told by family, some friends or strangers, because it just wasn't normal. It wasn't normal for an 18 or, well, at that time, a 15-year-old Filipina, to kind of be a trailblazer in this sort of environment, especially in motorsport. Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to give up?
There was a lot of times where, especially facing defeats, I think that was one of the toughest lessons that I had to really learn in life. Apart from, of course, being disciplined, it's actually composing myself, always thinking with my brain rather than with my heart. As cliche as it sounds, often that's what we do. We react on our feelings, on our emotions. The judgments we make are sometimes biased by how we feel. And as a driver, or as an athlete in general, it's just not something that you can afford to make. Every decision you make has to be precise, has to be in according to what is rational. And as I would say, I still think that I'm still a kid. I think being 18, I still am. So I'm still kind of learning that myself. And it was quite tough because throughout my whole career, I was often, facing a lot of difficulties. I would face defeats, I would lose a race, I would have a technical failure in the car, just all of these moments where I was pushed to my limit, and to my mental capacity to like really push my feelings aside. And I would get mad, I would get sad. And in those moments, it's so easy to say, I give up. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do is give up. I've always told myself that's always going to be the easiest way out when you're facing difficulties, is to just give everything up and just walk away. But I just couldn't. I mean, even though we didn't have money, even though I lost, even though people didn't believe in me or told me that I was never going to make it, I would often tell myself that walking away now is something that I'll always regret my whole life. Um, and I'd rather do it scared than not at all. So, yeah.
So have you seen, a shift through, I mean, you've broken barriers and you've changed motorsport for women tremendously, you alongside a strong group of women right now. And in the Philippines specifically, you've got an amazing fan base, but now you've got it around the world. How has this changed motorsport in the Philippines?
I mean, it's been honestly crazy. Whew. I honestly just can't believe it's only been a year, working in F1 Academy and in the F1 platform. But I've, witnessed myself just amazing things happen within the sport, within my country, and not just, in the Philippines, but around the world. The global reach we've gotten is just like crazy for me. It's crazy to think that I have nearly over 1 million followers across all my platforms and social media. To have that amount of following is crazy. But to actually kind of like tell myself that those are real people following you and supporting you is just incredible to me. I can't even imagine. I mean, one of the amazing things I experienced was actually, going to Singapore Grand Prix the last weekend. I mean, yesterday, 2 days ago. And, I entered the racetrack. Well, I left the racetrack, and as I was about to leave, people recognized me and was literally screaming my name. And I was like, I mean, I'm not an F1 driver. I wasn't racing that weekend, but I was in normal clothing. Like, obviously, it was a shock for me that people even noticed, but they did. And it's just one of those amazing things that in your career, or well, in life where you just become like speechless. It was the first time I ever experienced something like that. Well, that massively, and it was incredible. And to think that most of those fans and supporters, most of my fans and supporters are female, is even more incredible. You know, to be in an environment where it's male dominated but have more female followings, female fans, supporters, is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's really shown that the sport has become more diverse, has, you know, the inclusivity it's gotten is amazing. Looking back to a decade or so ago, you know, during my time when I was karting, you know, I was often the only female on track. My friends, I had female friends, and none of them knew what racing was. And now I have friends that come up to me that speaks to me about racing, you know, female friends, the female fans all across like the Philippines and abroad. It's incredible. And it's just amazing that it's not even just about drivers. You know, I went into the F1 paddock, and I mean, I was surrounded by females everywhere. You know, we had female mechanics, female engineers, female strategists, female tire changers, you know, working communications, you know, sponsorship, partnership, you know, everything. It's incredible how the F1 paddock is filled with females, women, and really trailblazers. You know, like we often say that, you know, great men are always backed by powerful women, but now it's actually women leading it. I mean, the amount of female CEOs I've met in the F1 paddock is incredible. And to really have those people around you and kind of nurture in that sort of environment where you're constantly, you know, being pushed and pursued and supported is an amazing feeling. And that's what F1 Academy has given us, you know, to be supported and led by Susie Wolf herself, you know, an empowering woman who has went through the highs and lows of motorsport. Yeah, it's incredibly just amazing.
I cannot imagine the feeling walking out of that paddock after seeing them in Singapore, especially after this year's race in Singapore was drastically different from last year's race in Singapore. And last year's race was the last women's race. And so though this weekend there wasn't a race, getting to have that feeling of seeing the women in the paddocks and the engineers and, you know, all your pit crews and all your sponsors, that must have been, you know, a big triumph moment for you.
It really was, because I mean, I remember, yeah, exactly a year ago, you know, being in Singapore and being told that, you know, W Series has gone bankrupt and this will be our last race of the season. I mean, we were devastated. We were in tears. All of us were just crying. I mean, we just didn't know what the future was and what it could be. You know, the talks of F1 Academy hasn't even, you know, started yet. And really, you were just all lost. It's like we're fighting so hard for something, and it's like no one was recognizing it. No one was like watching. It felt like we were alone. Like you know, in the end, it's kind of like we were left behind. But obviously, you know, that was not the case. Yeah, exactly a year ago, I was hopeless. You know, my dreams were shattered. I didn't have the funding or the support financially to move up to any other championships. For me, it was that or nothing. And obviously, it's changed because of all of those people that vouched, rallied behind us, and fought for us. You know, on social media, on news outlets, on just every single platform. You know, because of that, you know, F1 Academy came to life, and not even just, you know, people, but drivers themselves. Lewis Hamilton himself, you know, pushed and really encouraged for this support for women in the sport. And because of that, it's given, you know, not just me, but all of the other girls out there to have another shot, to have another chance, to have an amazing platform, to be supported, and yeah, to have, you know, an opportunity to race and drive and do what we love. I mean, F1 Academy has really opened a lot of doors for me, and it's incredible how much little one person can do, but all of it combined, you know, we're able to move mountains.
Yeah, I just think about, you know, I was in the States intending to be at that race and thinking about Catherine having to deliver that news and refreshing the news outlets every 5 minutes. and how heartbreaking that was for so many years of hard work and everything you all had overcome through the pandemic. And just the physical storm and the outcome of that race being as difficult as it was, and then that conversation that had to happen intimately with all of you women, and the hard work that had taken place. But I think what intrigues me the most about it is what happened in person that day and the leadership that you witnessed within that organization, and how you all supported each other when everyone got back to the UK and was scrambling to find funding, and how you all found the fight in you, and then how you had the grace with yourself to accept the change that happened to W Series and be open and willing to what F1 and their platform was willing to do for you. And, you know, I know that there is division, but there's also this common thread of women in motorsport. At the end of the day, that's what mattered. It didn't matter what commercial entity was behind it. I want to race. I want a championship race, and I want to be a great role model for women on and off the track. And that's what I think your story tells. You and Naomi, you know, Lewis, all of you have that same mission. So how did you all come together and accept the change and roll with the punches and just remain open-minded?
I mean, yeah, I mean, coming off from that Singapore weekend, I even remember, yeah, coming back home to Philippines and really, really thinking that, you know, what's after this? I mean, I don't have any other opportunities. I don't have the money. You know, what's gonna happen? I remember having conversations with my parents, you know, already like thinking about next year because it really was coming quickly and we had nothing planned, you know, talking to my manager as well. And, you know, a few, you know, like a couple of weeks later, months, talks about F1 Academy started. And obviously, you know, we were hopeful, like to you know, to be chosen of one of the drivers, or, you know, kind of just like finding it, you know, ourselves and testing the waters and everything, you know. We weren't really expecting for it to happen, you know, so immediately as well. But all of those people, you know, Susie, everyone behind F1 Academy, F1, you know, the fans, supporters, they all really pushed for this championship to happen, to, you know, make a stand and say that we're here to stay, and we're back stronger than ever. And it really was, you know, it allowed us to work with all these amazing race teams. You know, I'm racing myself with Prema, one of the best, you know, junior Formula teams right now. And, you know, not only has it given us a platform, but it's given us an environment where we can really grow as racing drivers, where we're not looked at as just, you know, female drivers, just drivers in general. And working with Prema, that's what I felt. You know, it didn't feel like I was a female driver, like I was, you know, something, you know, and you know, I was just a driver in general. I was treated as equal. And because of that, I was able to learn so much. I was able to grow. I was able to be more technical with myself. And, you know, and given the track time as well, I progressed, you know, massively compared to last year. You know, last year in W Series, I would say I was one of always the slowest drivers on track, 4 seconds off the pace. And to come now with all the testing we've done and hard work and preparation, where, you know, one of the fastest drivers in championship, you know, winning a couple of races as well. So, you know, it's, you know, the personal growth, you know, mentally and physically, and you know, kind of like from your really rock bottom to like taking it to the next level. That's what it was. And you know, F1 Academy has done its great job to really prepare us for the next step. You know, in the end, you know, this is an amazing platform for us, but our goal is to reach Formula One, and F1 Academy is supporting that goal of ours. You know, it's preparing us for the next step of F3 and F2 and really feeding us into the ladder. And, you know, that's why they value so much the track time. They value so much that we're working with the best junior teams. And now, you know, to be officially linked with F1 next year, we'll be racing in the F1 calendar as well. So we'll have that visibility. We'll have, you know, that space where people can watch, and where, you know, girls can see female drivers, that they do exist, that there's female drivers out there, you know, and they can have someone to look up to and watch alongside Formula One. and and be seen as equal.
Amazing.
That is so amazing. Actually, as you speak, I'm just again blown away by just your perseverance, and I mean, and you're just so young, so I can just imagine what the future holds for you. What advice would you give to young women in general?
Whew, as a young woman myself, I still take a lot of advice from a lot of people. So it definitely didn't happen overnight. Like I said, I had a great team supporting me. I had my management, I had, CBR Media, I had my manager, and just everyone behind me. And, all these people rallying, really. But, if I could give back and give, some pieces of advice to the younger generation, honestly, I would just want to say that, you know most of the times we're often held back by our fears. I think, I myself, held myself back from a lot of opportunities because I was scared to fail, scared to make a mistake, scared that I'm not good enough. And it lingers in your head, that constant, talking down to yourself, that constant rabbit hole of just self-doubt. And most of the time, that's what holds you back the most from your performance, from your, optimizing what you're capable of, from your potential. All of us has potential within us, whether it be sports or your or career or business or anything in general. And I was scared my whole life, to be honest, because I was risking everything. For others, it was a hobby. For others, it's just something to do on the weekends or something for fun. But for me, I was risking my house. I was like loaning all of our houses, my mom's like jewel, like everything. Like my dad was working overseas in America, working 3 jobs. Um, and and the amount of things that we sacrificed for me to be here, everything, all of that was like literally on the line. um Most of the times my dad would, skip a meal just to send that money back to Philippines so I could raise, or so that we could, live a rather comfortable life. And that kind of thought always lingered in my head, because I realized that, man, if I don't make it, I have a lot to lose. I have my whole family's, life earnings on the line, and I was scared. Oh gosh, I was scared. But I realized that, I was brave enough to be scared my whole life, fighting for my dreams. And really, that's all that matters. Do it scared, do it, afraid, do it shaking, trembling, but, as long as you're doing it, then you're already one step closer to where you were, the previous days or the previous hours. And so I've always just really told myself, that I might not be there immediately, but I'll be there, one day. And you know the mentality of being 1% better every day and one step closer, and thinking to myself that all of my actions will never have immediate results, but one day all of those actions will lead up to something meaningful. And so I take everything to kind of to precisely, and to really, but to heart, like every training, every workout I do, every interview, every like sponsorship or meetings, I always give it my 101%, because for me, there might not be another one. I might not have another day in motorsport, or in this, or in this career, or in this space. So yeah, just tell yourself, that I might be scared now, but I might lead to something beautiful in the future, and that's worth it.
Wow. Well, I can definitely see the passion and just your energy. You totally believe in everything that you're doing, and what you're doing is definitely paving the way for many, many women. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for definitely making it possible, right? Seeing you achieve all the things that you've achieved makes it possible for everybody else. So really, I just want to thank you. You've got 1 million followers. You've got another one to add here, because I am definitely
Thank you so
I am so, so grateful. And you know, been sitting in the back kind of watching your story develop over recent years. And so this is really meaningful to me and to Diana and for the rest of the women in this organization, because I think regardless of what you're working on, like we still have that in common of being held back by your fears and being 1% better every day. And everything you said just hit the nail on the head of everything I need to hear every day. And maybe it was the pep talk we gave earlier to one of our associates, but it's real. And there are common challenges we're all faced with. You know, I dream of being a professional race car driver, but right now I need to get my cars through the shop to get them out to the track. And so that's going to be what it is. But I have one question that like I kind of lean on to my team. It's about discipline. And, you know, whether it be your training videos and your reaction times and all of that, but what are a couple things you do, like when you start your day, to just remain disciplined, whether it be with your media, with growing your business, training for the track, whatever it is, to like keep Bianca on track and 1% better every day?
Whew, yeah, I mean, discipline I think it's something that, you know, most of us, you know, really struggle with. You know, I struggle with it. And I know, you know, people older than me struggle with it because it's so hard to keep yourself disciplined, you know, when you're faced with a lot of things that kind of, you know, makes you veer off track from your path or to distract you. There's a lot of things in life that distracts me. But I've always just constantly told myself that again and again and again that, you know, I want to be the difference I want to see in the world. And, you know, and if I let myself kind of, you know, fall down into this, you know, if to go off rails, then everything I fought for, everything I'm fighting for, it's all, you know, meaningless. Because if I don't, you know, if I don't practice the things I say or practice the things I want to, then it's not worth it. Then it's all for nothing. So I constantly tell myself that, you know, especially when my training, you know, I train every day. I constantly tell myself that, you know, if I'm weak, if I'm not strong enough to drive the car, then everything I worked hard for is nothing. Because one of the most painful thing for an athlete is to be, you know, physically held back by if you're fatigued or if you're tired for, you know, during a race, you start slowing down. You're not able to reach what you're capable of because you're physically held back. And so I try my best to be disciplined in my working out, you know, to do it every morning. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. You know, I run, I train, I skip rope. I do weightlifting if I can, if I have, you know, the time for it. And, you know, just to really do it every day. And it's constant practice. You know, there was days where I skipped. There were days where I gave myself excuses. You know, I was like, oh, the road's too wet, I might slip and fall, or the gym is closed, or oh, it's too far, or, you know, like just everything to get myself out of it. But I realized that, you know, I'm not doing myself any better. You know, this is not for people, this is for me, this is not for anyone else but me. You know, all of these actions are for the better of me, and it's really my tool to make it to where I want to be. And so it's just constantly telling yourself that, you know, whenever you give yourself excuses, find another one to like counter it. And that's what I do. So it's tough, for sure. It's tough, you know, especially during those days where you don't feel like working out, when you don't feel like working, when you feel like sleeping in, you know, those days when you're just tired and you don't feel like, you know, giving it 100%. But, you know, in the end, you don't have to give it your 100, but you have to give it your 101%, because that 1% matters. And you know, constantly practicing that and telling yourself that this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be, and I love doing what I do. And you know, that'll make everything a whole lot better and a whole lot easier.
What do you think is next for you, Bianca? What's your next goal?
You know, being 18, I'm still kind of, I guess, in the very beginning of my career, even though I'd already spent a decade and a half preparing for this moment. But yeah, honestly, it's crazy to think that, yeah, I'm still only at the very beginning. And the road ahead of us is, you know, it's going to be long, it's going to be challenging, difficult. And sometimes I'll feel like, walking away, but I won't. I'll make sure of it that I don't walk away, even though how tough it gets. But the goal for me is to make it to Formula One. I want to be there purely by merit. I want to be there because I deserve to be there, because I'm quick enough to be there. And regardless if I'm a female, I want to be there because I'm a driver and I was quick enough. And that's my goal. I want to be better. I want to make it in you know in a situation in my life, or in a moment in my life, where I can say that, yeah, I did everything that I needed to. I changed, I disciplined myself, I taught myself, I listened, I learned. That's why I'm here. And F1 Academy is doing an amazing job on teaching us, on nurturing us, on enhancing our craft, our talent, and at the same time, showcasing to the world that we're a work in progress, that we're still very fresh in this environment. But at the same time, you can follow along on that journey and kind of be a part of our journey and watch us grow, watch me grow, and make it to Formula One. Because in the coming years, or now, I want to be in F2, I want to be in F3, I want to move up. I want to compete against the boys and really show that there's nothing that differentiates a man and woman inside a car. Once you have that helmet down, you're equal, you're drivers.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're so young. How do you balance your career and your personal life? Like, do you have a life?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that I had to sacrifice. There was just no time to have a personal life, unfortunately. It was either take it as a hobby or risk everything, which I had to risk everything. I was homeschooled at the age of 5, so I never had a normal childhood. A lot of things I haven't experienced yet, like having sleepovers or going to parties, or like watching movies with friends, like all this like funny little things that to other people it might not mean anything, it might just be their normal daily life. But for me, I've dreamt of like experiencing those days, especially when I'm just so tired of being an athlete. Oh, it must be nice to just go to a friend's house, watch a movie, talk about life. And it's like cliche thinking about it, but for me, that's really like what I always dreamt of, like having girlfriends and like going like to malls and hanging out. Just didn't have time for it. It was either hang out with friends or train. But so of course I need to train, so I chose the latter. But yeah, I even now I still try my best to kind of have a different side of me, because I did spend my whole life in motorsport, revolving my world around motorsport. But I also realized that you need to have some outlets to release your stress, release your creativity, to just let yourself be free. And that's why I graduated. I just graduated this year in high school. I actually did STEM. I've always been a fan of engineering, mathematics, science, and I I like I like to try to like think that, oh, okay, if I have a night out, okay, I'm gonna go spend it out, with friends. Like I do try to plan, but in the end, I always just end up going back to like racing. I'm either just watching a race, or I'm reviewing an old on board, or I'm probably like staying up till 12 a.m. reviewing old notes. Like, I try. Like I message people. I try to like invite people to like hang out and everything. But in the end, I'm just like I make myself feel bad. Like I talk myself into thinking that I don't deserve it. I'm like, oh, Rila, do you really want to spend a night out? You got a race coming up. You rather just study your old notes rather than hang out with friends. Come on. And like I kind of talk myself out of it, so I just can't. That's something I'm actually working on as well, is like knowing when to have a rest, like knowing when to step back, because I think knowing when to step back is one of the most amazing tool you can have, as an athlete, as a person, or as anyone that has a career that is quite stressful, is like knowing when to take a break. Because the minute that you actually de-stress and take a break is when you can optimize your performance. That's when you can think properly, you can function properly. In the end, we're all just humans. Even athletes are human first. So it's very important to ask yourself, am I okay? Am I living well? Am I happy? Am I stressed? Is it too much? And it's never a bad thing to ask for help. Even I myself, I ask help all the time. I am like, I'm without, I can't live without, my team, because, they're the people that really, help me through, talk me out of things, talk me up, and yeah, that's why it's just important to have good people and know when to take a break. But yeah, if I did have a night to myself out, if I did like my imaginary night to myself is would probably be like have a sleepover, because I've never had one yet.
Well, we heard that you'll be in the Bay Area soon. And I think we have the privilege of having you at the store and putting you in one of our cars for a few days. And so Diana and I are hoping that you can find a little bit of time to grab a
Have
meal.
sleepover.
We can
I'm
have
gonna
a
say
pretend
sleepover at Savannah's house. Savannah's house.
It'll be great. We'll
We
only
can
watch,
watch Mean Girls and everything.
we can watch Mean Girls.
Or the
Jeff,
new Barbie movie.
okay. Wait,
I
hold on.
haven't seen it yet.
That was my next question was, did you watch it? And so this is a topic I had with one of the other board members of the Women's Circle. She accidentally sent me a text message asking if we could watch the Barbie movie.
I heard about that.
To her niece named Savannah. And I watched it with my partner, and, both being in the same field of work, being asked the whole movie, wait, can you pause? Is that really what it's like? And I thought that the movie was going to be funny. Like, I really thought that the movie was like pop culture references, like it would be light. I had no idea what I was walking into. And I was so emotional. I was like, I felt validated to a certain, but we have to watch it. It was great. But I think
I hear a lot of things about it. They said that, there's so many like life lessons that you can learn from it as well.
it was
Like,
so good.
like the amount of, emotional chokehold it has on you is crazy, they said.
I think they definitely could have toned back the male shaming a little bit. But what I will say is about having the confidence and
Yeah.
this naive view on the world around you. And I thought that it was really refreshing. But I would also say, going into something with a naive view, recently, Diana and I went and saw Beyonce. And I had no idea what I was walking into, but almost like, going in with a fresh set of eyes and what strength we as women have in society. Both were so unexpected, but amazing experiences of kind of this movement behind us. And I think that, we're very lucky that we're around motorsport with the brands that we have and the opportunities that we have and the people we get to meet. But I don't know that I would have ever been aware of the movement that was going on within that, that side of motorsport. And I think that, F1 Academy has done a great job, but automotive as a whole has this huge movement.
Yeah.
Not about any industry, but it's what you're aware of, right? It's what your eyes are open to. And so we're so privileged to have the chance to plan our dream sleepover with Mean Girls and the Barbie movie, and it'll be great. But who are you rooting for this season for F1?
Who quite tough. All of them really I look up to. Most of them, they come from very different stories, different backgrounds, and all of them, none of them had the same path, but all of them made it there, and that's incredible. Some made it sooner, some made it later in their careers. But if there was really a driver, I've always been a Niki Lauda fan. He was really my role model throughout my whole career. I mean, throughout my current career, he was just everything. He was disciplined, he was smart, he had the mind for business, he knew how to take risks, he knew how to evaluate the risk, he knew when to take a leap of faith, but he also knew when to take a step back. And I think that's very important. And I think a driver that I can see similar in that is Carlos Sainz. I think he's definitely an up and coming, well, already a talent. Like it's incredible, once given their opportunity, he's able to extract the most out of the car, out of the team. Even a team that is not so competitive, he's able to get the most out of it, and really at the same time, not be a robot. I think a lot of drivers are often looked at as a robot, just following the team, following what's kind of made for them. You do this, you do that, you do this, and like, you follow the mats, you follow the strategies and everything. But I got to watch him in the Singapore Grand Prix, and most of the time he was making his own calls that fit the most to the situation, and the team kind of believed in him, and really trusted him to take the lead. Very strategic moves that really gave him the win in the end. And I really do believe that if there was any other driver leading the race, he would have been overtaken. But with Carlos, with the right strategy and the right support, he was able to take the wins. I think that was really incredible.
I can see how your slumber parties can easily be taken over by racing, because we're having a conversation about the Barbie movie and the stream, and then I'm like immediately back to that, and I apologize.
Now we're watching all the Grand Prix.
Yes, exactly. When you're here, we will steer clear of those, so you can have the real experience. But no, I think that both of those drivers and their ability to balance, I think, is extremely admirable and amazing. But Bianca, I don't know how you do it. I'm so grateful that we had this time, and I know that the women in our organization that watch this and beyond are going to be so inspired and thankful for the lessons that you've been able to share, and the insight into how you balance, you manage your discipline, and you carry yourself with such grace.
Bianca, I just want to thank you as well for just courage and confidence. You've definitely inspired me and motivated me in this conversation. And I know you're going to inspire a lot of the women in our organization. So again, thank you so much for your time, for doing this, and for the pathway that you're creating for all women in not just motorsport, but I would say just in life in general. I mean, if we follow the principles and the tips that you gave us, we can be successful at anything.
Don't listen to an 18-year-old. I'm just a kid.
You're a kid doing some really amazing things, and I feel that we all look ourselves in the mirror, and we still think we're all kids. So not to take yourself too seriously and have fun, but just focus on getting 1% better.
Focus on getting 1% better. That's gonna be the thing I keep telling myself in my head.
Once you have that helmet down, you're equal. You're drivers.